All right, let's dive right in. You know, when we think about ancient myths, it's so easy to just picture these wild, fantastical stories. But what if they were actually something much, much more? What if they were a kind of symbolic language, a way of explaining the very fabric of the cosmos? Well, today we're going to decode one of the most profound spiritual structures to ever come out of ancient Egypt, the sacred family of Amun, Mut, and Khonsu. And this right here, this quote, is the absolute key to understanding everything we're about to talk about. It perfectly captures the mindset we need to have. So we're not just looking at some old stories about gods and goddesses. Nope. We're actually exploring a symbolic map, a map of creation, of balance, of renewal, that the ancient Egyptians believed governed literally everything, from the stars way up in the sky all the way down to the human soul. Okay, so to really make sense of this whole cosmic equation, we're going to break it down into a few parts. First, we'll get a handle on the whole idea of a sacred family. Then we'll meet each of the members, Amun, Mut, and Khonsu. After that, we're going to zoom out and see the universal pattern they represent. And then we'll wrap up by looking at why this ancient wisdom is still, believe it or not, incredibly relevant for us today. All right, so first things first. In ancient Egypt, the gods weren't really seen as these isolated, standalone figures. Not at all. They were almost always grouped into what are called triads, these symbolic families, a father, a mother, and a child. And these families weren't just for show. They represented these huge, fundamental, universal principles. It was their way of explaining how different divine forces come together to create, well, reality itself. And right here, this is where it gets so interesting. Because this triad lays out the entire process of creation. I mean, think about it. You start with Amun, this hidden, invisible source. Then you have Mut, the great mother, the creative womb that gives that source a form. And then finally, you get Khonsu, the child, the result of that union. He's time, movement, renewal. He's life in motion. So altogether, they tell this complete, beautiful story of how the unseen becomes seen. Okay. Let's start at the very beginning of this cosmic equation. Let's talk about the father figure, Amun. He is the origin point, the ultimate mystery that's behind absolutely everything. And his name is the perfect clue. Amun literally means the hidden one. See, he's not like a creator god who, builds the world and then just steps away. No, he's the invisible, unknowable source inside of everything, all the time, constantly sustaining it. The best way to think of him is not as a being, but as the very state of pure potential itself. And this is a fantastic way to look at it, because it shows how Amun was understood on all these different levels. So, mythologically, he's the unseen force. Philosophically, he's the actual concept of pure potential. And then there's the political angle, which was incredibly powerful. As the top god of Thebes, the capital, he became the ultimate symbol of divine authority, the power that legitimized the pharaoh's right to rule.
And this is just a perfect metaphor to help you wrap your head around it. Amun is like the wind. You can't see it, right? But you feel it everywhere. You see its effects on everything around you. That's Amun, the hidden cause whose presence is felt in all of creation.
So if Amun is this hidden, invisible potential, then the big question is, how does it become, anything at all? And that's where Mut, the Great Mother, comes into the picture. She is the absolutely essential next step in this whole creative process. And just like with Amun, her name pretty much says it all. Mut just means mother. She's the cosmic womb, the container, the divine feminine principle that takes all that formless potential from Amun and gives it structure, gives it balance, gives it form. I mean, without her, Amun's potential would just stay hidden forever. It would never become anything. She really is the womb of creation. And what's so important to get here is that Mut isn't just some passive vessel. Oh no, she is a queen, a powerful creator, a protector. Psychologically, you could say she represents all those qualities we need to bring our own potential to life. Things like emotional intelligence, compassion, inner stability. And on a cosmic level, her role is just non-negotiable. She's the one who provides the balance and the rhythm that life needs to even exist. I just love this metaphor. It captures her essence so perfectly. Think about it. The night sky doesn't create the stars, does it? but it provides that vast, dark, stable space that allows them to exist and to shine. That is Mut's power, to hold, to nurture, and to give a home to the infinite potential she carries.
Okay, so we've got the hidden source, Amun. We've got the nurturing form, Mut. So what happens when these two cosmic forces come together? Well, you get Khonsu, the divine child, and he represents the universe made manifest. He's life itself in constant, beautiful motion.
And his name, the Traveler, is just fantastic, isn't it? It immediately connects him with movement, with change. And as a lunar god, he's tied to all of those great cycles we see and feel in our own lives. The ebb and flow of the tides, the waxing and waning of the moon, and yeah, even the personal rhythms of growth, decay, and renewal. And this points to one of Khonsu's most fascinating roles. He was a god of healing. See, the ancient Egyptians had this belief that being sick was basically being out of sync with the natural rhythm of time. So the rituals in his temples were all about realigning a person's body with those cosmic rhythms that he governed. It's really a profound way of looking at the connection between time and our own well-being.
And yeah, this just sums him up perfectly. Khonsu is like a river. It's always moving, it's always renewing itself. A river is never the same from one moment to the next. That's Khonsu. He's the dynamic, always changing, always moving expression of life as it unfolds through time.
All right, now that we've met the family, let's zoom way out for a second. Because the Theban Triad, it isn't just some local story about three specific gods. It's actually a blueprint, a template for a universal pattern of creation. You could even call it a cosmic equation that describes how basically anything comes into being. This is the core formula right here. Step 1, you have a source, some kind of potential. Step 2, that source is given a form, a structure. And step 3, it becomes an expression that plays out in time. And you can see this pattern absolutely everywhere. Think about consciousness, which becomes the mind, which then creates our experience. It's a fundamental process of reality. And this just brilliantly shows how universal that pattern really is. It doesn't matter if you're looking at it through a modern psychological lens like from Carl Jung, or through an ancient mystical tradition like alchemy. That same three-part structure just keeps showing up. The names might change, but that cosmic equation, source, form, and expression, it stays exactly the same.
So all of this brings us to the big question, right? Why does any of this ancient stuff matter today? What can this symbolic family possibly teach us about how to live in our own complex modern world?
Well, the really crucial point here is that these aren't just abstract philosophical ideas. This is practical wisdom. The triad teaches us that the source of life is often hidden, that creation demands balance, that time always brings renewal. It teaches us that masculine and feminine principles have to work together in harmony, and that real growth happens in cycles, not in a straight line. And honestly, this might matter now more than ever before. We live in a world that is obsessed with visibility, with being seen, with constant, relentless forward progress. This triad offers such a powerful counter-narrative to all that. It reminds us that what matters most is often unseen, that nurturing is a creative force, and that change is necessary and natural. When you boil it all down, this is the beautiful truth at the very heart of this myth. Amun is the hidden source, Mut is the nurturing form, and Khonsu is the rhythm of life. They aren't separate things. They're just three faces of one single harmonious process. Creation, it turns out, is a family of forces, all working together in perfect harmony. And so, I want to leave you with a question that takes this huge cosmic myth and makes it incredibly personal. Because that same pattern of creation exists inside of you, right now. So the question is, what hidden source inside of you? What unseen potential? What idea? What dream? What is your Amun that you are now ready to nurture into being?